It's 8 p.m. Welcome to the Citi Newsroom. My name is Frema Adunyame.
And I am Nathan Quao. Coming up.
President Akufo-Addo finally breaks his silence on the banking crisis as he admits he has no ill intention for indigenous banks.
Parliament's Finance Committee resolves to expedite payment of severance for workers of collapsed UT and Capital banks on second day of its probe into the banking crisis.
Now, dismissed security workers of Unibank hold up management of Consolidated Bank over their unpaid salaries and frozen accounts.
ECG officials in Tema recover 1 million Ghana cedis as they go on the offensive against illegal connections.
Also in the news, we visit the healthcare center at Dambai that is struggling to provide decent healthcare for residents.
Also, retailers of stationery and school products under siege from cheap imports from China.
Now, in our very first story, to the Karachi East municipality, where the Dambai Health Center is struggling to provide any semblance of decent health care to the community.
Our reporter Michael Sapong-Fum found out that patients of the center are treated on wooden benches. There is more in this report.
The Dambai Health Center, built years ago, is the only major health facility in the Karachi East municipality. With only one medical doctor, the facility attends to about 200 patients daily. Because of inadequate space and beds at the facility, males, females and children share the same ward. Due to this situation, patients are compelled to use benches as beds. The medical doctor at the facility, Dr. Abigail Menu, says running the facility has become a major headache.
Currently, the Dambai Health Center has about 16 beds at the general ward and 3 beds at maternity units. And the 16 beds at the general wards, that includes children, males and females. So we have a situation where children, males, females are all in the same ward. We don't have a designated ward for all these 3 categories, and sometimes we have a lot of cases more than the bed capacity. So we usually have to admit patients on benches until we are able to discharge some people before they can be able to get the access to those beds. And then at maternity units too, of course, we might have more than one patient being in labor. We have just one delivery bed. So when there are more than that, we have to get mattresses, or patient relatives would have to bring mats for patients to lie on the floor, which is not the best practice. It has effects on the patients, even on the staff where they have to bend to work. So it's really a challenge.
Apart from this challenge, all 4 vehicles of the facility, including an ambulance, have all broken down. Patients who are referred to the Rara Government Hospital have to be transported in public transport.
We have an ambulance which is on stones. It's been broken down for more than 10 years now, even before I came. And usually when we have cases that have to be transferred to a bigger facility, which is about an hour or more away, they have to use taxis. Some have to go in motorcades, some even on motorbikes, which is not the best. So I think we really need an ambulance to be able to convey emergency cases which we cannot handle at our level to the bigger facilities for them to. And then it's about timing. Once the patients get there on time and they're able to manage the patients, we can save a lot of lives. But here's the case: they have to go by public transport. Sometimes they go with the normal public transport, wait for the car to be filled before patients are sent, because they don't have the money to be able to charter the taxi all the way to Rara, which is the closest facility.
Another major challenge here is the poor nature of the road leading to the health facility. The situation gets worse during the raining season. This road needs urgent attention.
The Dambai Health Center is facing major challenges here in providing quality health care for patients who visit this facility. There's no ambulance and the beds are very few. At times, patients have to bring in their own benches to sleep on because of inadequate beds here. For Citi News, I am Michael Sapong-Fum reporting.
The Municipal Chief Executive for Drapa in the Upper West Region, Christine Amadou, has appealed to chiefs and opinion leaders in the municipality to support the government to bring the needed development to the area. Citi News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Latif Mahama has the rest of the story in this report.
The Jirapa municipality in the Upper West region is set to see the construction of 9 infrastructural projects in the area. The projects include a chips compound and a nurses' quarters at Deriri, a 10-seater toilet facility at Hem Market, a borehole at Ping, a 2-unit nurses' quarters at Tampala, the extension of the Tampala chips compound, a 10-seater toilet facility at the Jirapa Senior High School, and a 3-unit classroom block at Ulo Islamic Junior High School. Speaking at Ulo, one of the beneficiary communities, where a sword cutting ceremony was held for the commencement of the construction of the projects, the municipal chief executive for Jirapa, Christine Amadou Bomanye, admonished the beneficiary communities to support the contractors to enable them complete the projects per schedule.
The MPP government is poised on bringing development to the doorsteps of the people. If you look at the communities we have gone around today, they lack certain facilities. So I think it is necessary that we should give them these facilities. If you take a chip compound, for instance, this is Zebwoderiri. They have never enjoyed a chip compound before. And I also realize that we cannot just give them a chip compound without a nurses' quarters, where the nurses will have to go and stay in the district capital or even hang before they come. So when we give these 2 facilities to them, to enable the nurses to be there 24 hours to take care of their health needs.
For his part, the paramount chief of the Ulu traditional area, Na Alhaji Babuarono Amadou Seydou II, commended the MCE and the government for the projects and pledged his full support. The projects, which are all expected to be completed within 4 months, will be funded by the District Development Facility with over 970,000 Ghana cedis.
Let's get to the Ashanti region, where Member of Parliament for Asawase, Muntaka Mubarak, has warned the Zongo community could run out of patience if the independent committee investigating the killing of the 7 young men fails to expedite processes to come out with the report. The legislator made the remarks when 4 of the 7 young men were brought to the Kumasi Central Mosque for final prayers before their burial. Citi News' Ashanti regional correspondent Hafiz Tijani was there and came through with this report.
It was a moment of solemn and grief as relatives and sympathizers of the deceased could not hold back their tears when 4 ambulances brought in the bodies from the Akufo-Addo Teaching Hospital. The 4 included Mohammed Bashir Musa, Mohammed Kamal, Musa Seydou, and Babunt. The heavy military presence had a hectic time controlling the crowd, which trooped to the Kumasi Central Mosque to observe the final prayers. Some youths also held placards with inscriptions that called for justice. Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak, who spoke to Citi News, insisted that government must give the necessary support to the committee to enable it fast-track processes in the release of its report.
But what I continue to plead with the government is that we must do everything we can to ensure that the committee's report comes out in good time. Because you see, you said 1 month. Now we are hearing, without even really telling the public, that you've extended it for another 2 weeks. You create more suspicion and you create doubt on the minds of the people. I am pleading with government that whatever the committee requires to be able to finish their work, they must facilitate to ensure that this is done quickly. To be able to keep the community together, to be able to keep the peace and unity of the community together. Because it looks like the community is being overstretched. If we are not careful and all those who have control over the community all of us are beginning to lose control. If we joke and we all lose control over the community, I think it could be very disastrous for all of us.
Some of the relatives also called for justice.
Looking at the tragic death they faced, it's not easy for the family. Imagine the feeling. It wasn't easy for me at all. It wasn't easy for me, but all is well. Allah is in control.
I feel relief. At least I know that he has gotten to the final destination, and I'm praying that wherever he is in God's hands. And we are also looking for justice from the top, especially from the president. He should do something about it.
Meanwhile, the MPP's National Nasara Coordinator, Abdul Aziz Futa, is asking the youth to remain calm as the government awaits the report from the committee.
I will plead with the youths that we should exercise patience. It's very painful. These are brothers that we sit together, we do a lot of things together, and we lost them in a way that nobody is happy. But what we are happy with it is the president has said it time to time again, and even during our Eid, he will make sure that he will implement the report of the committee regardless of anything. That is the most important.
Reporting from the Kumasi Central Mosque, my name is Hafiz Tijani for Citi News.
Let's get to the northern region, where traditional taxi drivers within the Tamale metropolis are gradually getting out of business.
Their plight is, however, not due to the perennial upward adjustment of fuel prices or the rising cost of spare parts, but rather the influx of the yellow tricycles, popularly known as Mahama Kambu. Citi News' Abdul Karim Natoma takes a closer look at the situation in this report.
Today, in major cities like Accra and Kumasi, international taxi service provider Uber is the main headache of commercial taxi motorists who claim they are gradually losing their source of income. Here in the Tamale metropolis, the invasion of the yellow tricycles, popularly known as Mahama Kambu, is the headache of traditional taxi drivers. The Mahama NDC administration in November 2015 distributed the yellow tricycles to some youth in the northern region to be used for commercial purposes to ease the transportation difficulties in our parts of the country. The distribution was done through the Microfinance and Small Loans Center, MASLOC. From all indications, the yellow tricycles commercial transport business has come to stay, with many young men dropping out of school and reaping from it.
When I started doing it, I can see that in a day I can be able to make 50 Ghana for a season, and for that matter, I can also get something like 20 Ghana for myself, or 30 Ghana, or even more than that.
The yellow tricycles business is relatively the cheapest means of commercial transportation for people from all walks of life in the Tamale metropolis. Whereas traditional taxi drivers charge between 5 cedis and 10 cedis when chartered for a long distance, a customer pays far less than that for a longer distance on a Mahama Kambu. Due to this, many commuters will on any day go for the yellow tricycles.
Is it affordable? Yes, it's very affordable.
Different taxi. The area I am is far from town, so mostly the yellow drivers, they are fast to bring me to town. So that's my area is far. So when I'm going to walk to town, it will be very difficult for me. So that's why I'm taking yellow town.
For me, I reside in Ghana. Yes, and taking a taxi from Ghana to Tamale Central market, you will pay 1 cedi 50 pesos. For the yellow, you will pay 1 cedi 30 pesos. That is why I prefer the yellow than the taxi.
On December 1, 2015, traditional taxi drivers in the Tamale metropolis hit the streets against the use of the yellow tricycles for commercial purposes. These traditional taxi drivers insist they are increasingly losing their business to the yellow tricycle operators.
These tricycles are in. Yeah, now our work has just gone bad. We don't get passengers. You come out, in the morning, you struggle for about 2-3 hours before you load once and go. And when coming to, you will not get people to come back. Yeah, so in fact, and the fuel too is rising up and down. So we are just facing a big problem. How to get money to pay for our taxes, yeah, is a problem. And even if you come to work and you are going home, what you get, go to the house so that you and then your family will take is a problem.
We the taxi drivers, we are facing difficulties. So the government must come out and get a station for them so that they can be able to be workers more smooth. Even if we were in the station waiting for the passengers, they will rather chasing for the passengers, pulling them inside their cars.
Would you want to take a ride in one of those?
Well, for tourism purposes, I don't mind, because...
What if this was your only option?
Then I don't have a choice.
Okay.
But as long as I have choices, Right, so you're still watching Citi Newsroom. Coming up in the bulletin, President Akufo-Addo finally breaks his silence on the banking crisis as he admits he has no ill intention for indigenous bank. We'll be back with more.
For regular news checks as they unfold. 2020 news, all day, all the time. Politics, sports, entertainment, business, and more. 2020 news. We bring you the world in 20 minutes.
And that's all the news in 20 minutes.
Every Thursday night on Citi TV, you're welcome to join women from different backgrounds and opinions as they weigh in on your relationship issues. Watch Sister Sister as the ladies get real with issues about love, marriage, betrayal, sex, dating, trust, finances, and more.
And his goals and aims and ambitions, including like marital life or children. You should know that from the beginning. And when you have a deep conversation, you should be able to sense the vibe or the energy, but you should have that conversation so that you know what you're going in for. And then you advise yourself upon what you want and what the person wants.
Join Jessica and her sisters for Citi TV's all-women talk show, Sister Sister, every Thursday at 9 p.m.
Thanks for staying with us. We turn our attention to the seat of government, where President Akufo-Addo has assured that his government is not seeking to collapse the banking sector. Speaking on the banking crisis for the first time, President Akufo-Addo says what the Bank of Ghana is doing is to streamline activities in that sector.
7 local banks have so far collapsed as a result of what the central bank says is mismanagement by executives of the bank. Addressing the Ghanaian community in Kigali, Rwanda, the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, said his government was rather seeking to create stronger banks that would shore up the Ghanaian economy.
We cannot have a situation where the dominant banks in our country are all foreign banks. It's very dangerous for our future if we allow that to happen. But if our own indigenous banks are performing poorly, poor governance structures, poor risk, credit policies, at the end of the day, if we don't take care, that is what will happen. Because one by one, they will go under. The market is a really tough and rigorous place. the law of the market will have it that if you are not performing well, efficiently, you will go under. So we are trying to make sure that the banking sector of our country has strong indigenous banks which can compete successfully with these foreign-owned banks. There's not a question that we're going through a process that is in order to eliminate the indigenous banking sector from the banking system of our country. That's very dangerous. On the contrary, the process of rationalization is to enable us emerge with a stronger set of indigenous banks who can then help us grow our economy.
Still on the banking crisis, some security personnel from Top Core Security who provide services for the defunct Unibank in Accra today threatened to lock up managers of Consolidated Bank Ghana at their World Trade Center offices. This was to demand their unpaid salaries and frozen accounts following their dismissal after the collapse of Unibank. My colleague Hansen Ajman has the details.
Earlier today, a group of workers from Top Core Security who provided security for all Unibank branches in Accra besieged the office complex of Consolidated Bank of Ghana at the World Trade Center. They were demanding payments after going 4 months without receiving their salaries. They were also protesting a freeze of their bank accounts. In an interview with Citi News, some of the security personnel revealed how the situation had negatively affected them.
It's painful. Somebody worked 4 months, you not pay him. It's painful. How can we survive our children? You know why? It can't be. So the big one for what? Set up to pay our money.
I just went to the bank to withdraw money. What's the issue that they first froze my account? What can they froze my account for? My money when I come to withdraw to my account, you need to froze my account for what? Then I need to rush to the office to find out what is going on. I came to the office. I came there, I don't pay me, so I don't understand.
But you need a soldier. It's also a scam. It's me back out. Because scam and Casaya, Pamia Henqua, Etia Pamoto, Pamu, Consolidated Bank for Chiayen, because they say, no,
also present at the premises were some former tellers of the defunct Unibank. Even though they were not going to speak on record, they shared similar stories of difficulties as a result of the situation. While the aggrieved former workers of Unibank were agitating, management of Top Core Security were negotiating with officials of the Consolidated Bank of Ghana to find a lasting solution to the problem. Apologizing for the unfortunate situation, lawyer representing the management of Top Core Security asked the aggrieved security personnel to return to their homes.
And they've assured us that they will release some funds by close of day today. As soon as the funds hit top account, we will definitely pay the workers by tomorrow morning. We apologize for this very unfortunate situation. Unfortunately, today there's not much that is going to happen. Top is going to see what we can do to make today worth its while. But please leave here because their business is here and we don't want to disrupt their business.
Declining the plea from the council representing the management of Top Core Security, the General Commander of Top Core Security, Mark Ayamga, insisted on staying at the scene with his colleagues at the World Trade Center until their demands were met.
We have worked for it. We are not coming to borrow money to come and pay us. We have worked for that money. Yes. Why should our guys suffer to come to work? Why should they go fasting, living without food? Why should we suffer like that? Yes. The money is ours. Yes. Yes. We need that money. We are not leaving until we hear from our CEO that they have released our account and our salaries will be paid. We are not leaving until we hear that.
Reporting for Citi News, Hansen Ajman.
We stay with the banking sector, and the new Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited is set to close down 98 of its branches. The bank was created following the collapse of 5 indigenous banks. Altogether, the defunct banks had 191 branches. Management of Consolidated Bank has decided to keep only 93 that they inherited from the collapsed banks after initial assessment.
Rightly so, we asked the question of the number of jobs that they expect to cut, and they said they are still in the process of rationalizing the platform they want to use, and that will determine where they'll go. What we had from them was the number of branches that they would maintain. As of now, they have 191, and they've come to the determination that they will keep 93 of branches. That's beyond that. We don't know the number of jobs that will be lost. We met with Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited, and they made a presentation to the committee. You remember the Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited was incorporated on the 1st of August. So they've been in operation for about 5 months. So they gave us for about 5 weeks. 5 weeks, sorry. They gave an update of what they are doing so far, and then the prospects going forward. And you just saw them leave the room. So that's what we've been doing in the past 2 hours or so. All the employees would have their engagement with Consolidated Bank terminated at the end of September. They were given a 60-day probationary contract. Now, going forward, Consolidated Bank is going to do a nationwide employee assessment of all the employees of Consolidated Bank, and they've given regional centers in Accra, Kumasi, Sunyani, Tamale, Ho, Takrady, Cape Coast, and Koforidua. So all employees are going to go through the assessment, and then they will come to a determination as to the number of employees they want to keep.
To delve further into this matter, I've been joined by my colleague and parliamentary correspondent, Duke Mensah Opoku. Duke, good evening and welcome to the Citi Newsroom.
Thank you, Nathan.
First of all, what has the committee said in relation to the severance packages for workers of UT and Capital? We've seen other related workers, security men, bank tellers, but what exactly has the committee said for the main workers of UT and Capital who are seeking to get their severance?
So, with regards to the people that the committee met today, one of the entities, or two of the entities that's actually involved with the purchase and assumption takeover of the two of the banks last year, that's with regards to UT Bank and then Capital Bank, we had PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and KPMG appear. Now, these two entities have served as receivers for seven collapsed banks. Now, with regards to the two banks that collapsed last year, that's UT and Capital, they have had workers, former workers, laid off for the past 1 year without any severance package. Earlier, after witnessing briefly proceedings, the Honorable Harry Naidoo, who is minority leader, actually stated that for him, the biggest issue now is how to give out these severance packages. These severance packages. Now, after about 3 hours of meetings with the two receivers, the chairman of the committee told the media in the intermittent briefing that they usually give us, for the past 2 days, because the sitting is in camera. They told us that the receivers have come to a conclusion as to the amount they are going to give and the people exactly that they are going to give these severance packages to. But there were still some processes to be tied up. But the committee has said that they would intervene so that the Bank of Ghana and then the other stakeholders who are involved will fast-track the process so that all the workers involved, about 1,200 of them, would get their severance package. That's to them.
Okay. Were there any timelines given? Because we do understand and we all admit that it will take some time, it will go through a process, but was there a deadline given so that these workers will know or will have an expectation as to when exactly they will get these packages?
That we couldn't elicit from him, from the chairman of the committee and the other members.
What about the Honorable Adongo? He's not, initially when the sitting started, he boycotted, saying that it was a rubber stamp process. Is he still boycotting the process? Has he said anything so far?
Well, today he was not there. He didn't show up at the committee hearings. Earlier, we had heard that there were some of the members of the committee who were pushing that the committee should take a strong legislative and judicial note of what the Honorable Adongo had done, especially with some of his utterances which sought to impinge on the process that were currently going on. That there was a rubber stamp process, it was going to be a cover-up and all of those things. But the chairman said that he had engaged the leader of the Honorable Adongo, that is the Honorable Harry Naidoo, as the minority leader. And the resolution they've come to is that, well, Honorable Adongo reserves the right to attend committee meetings or not. And so they would let the matters lie down and not give credence to what has gone on, which may sway the focus of exactly what they are doing onto the tantrums, quote, that he is engaged in outside of the probe. Yeah.
Okay, and what about workers of Consolidated Bank? Has anything been said about them and, of course, their fate in relation to their severance and, you know, all these matters?
Well, so the workers of the Consolidated Bank officials, let me say, they appeared, I mean, for the last 2 hours of the probe. And after that, we gathered that, of course, the 98 branches were going to be shut down. Out of the 191, they were going to maintain only 93 and shut down 98. And then also, at the end of this month, the contract or the working relationship between all workers of the former banks and Consolidated Bank will be terminated.
Okay.
So at the end of this month, all employees of Consolidated Bank, I mean, that's coming from the previous bank.
Yes.
Their working relationship, their contracts will be terminated. And then the bank has set up several, centers in Sunyani, Accra, Takrady, and Kumasi, and Tamale, and others, where the workers will be assessed. All the workers from the 5 different banks that make up
all these workers
will be assessed.
Okay.
And after the assessment, they will select those that they think they can continue working with.
Okay.
So at the end of this month, September, all the workers, the probationary period of 2 months, which they were given when the bank was created, has elapsed. It has expired. So all of them will be disengaged, and then they will be assessed again. After which, the Consolidated Bank will pick the numbers that they need to continue working with.
2 questions. First, for how long or how much more time will the committee use in sitting? Are they ending the sittings today, or they'll sit through this weekend? 2, is there a likely point that a conversation around what happens to the workers who are not employed or who will not be picked at the end of this probation period by the new Consolidated Bank? What will happen to them? Have you started picking up any hints as to what could happen to them?
Well, first, the probe would end tomorrow, and tomorrow the Securities and Exchanges Commission, as well as the National Insurance Commission, are coming. Now, these bodies are not directly related to the banking sector, but they are coming because they found out that most of the banks that have collapsed have linkages to so they may have had subsidiaries in insurance, in asset management, in investment, and the rest. So they want to find out how deep these linkages are. With regards to the second question, the workers that will be affected after the rationalization by Consolidated Bank, they will then be entitled to a severance package. And what we've picked up is that already a labor consultant has been engaged to start having a discussion with the labor unions of the former of the defunct banks, so that something can be arrived at, and then those who would not be lucky to be drafted in after the assessment would be given this severance package, which probably would have been arrived at by the time Consolidated Bank is done with the assessment and choosing the next crop of workers that they will continue their Consolidated Bank journey with.
Okay, all right, Duke, thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll follow this conversation as and when it starts.
Yes, obviously, there's a sitting tomorrow.
Okay, all right, Duke, thank you very much. So that was my colleague and parliamentary correspondent, Duke Mensah-Opoku, giving us more updates from the sittings that have been going on in Parliament in relation to the collapse of the 7 local banks and what will happen to the workers that have been affected or who have been affected by the unfortunate incident. But let's move on to some other stories. And the Tema Regional Office of the Electricity Company of Ghana between January and July this year was able to recover over 1 million Ghana cedis through illegal connections within the municipality. Now, this was made known at a media encounter with selected journalists within Tema. Citi News' Tema correspondent is Elvis Washington, and he has more in this report.
The Revenue Protection Manager of the Tema office, Mrs. Zita Chejemfi, noted that out of 7 districts within the region, a recovery exercise conducted in 3 districts showed that communities such as Tema Newtown, Ashaiman, and Zenu Atadeka to be the highest illegal power users within the Tema region. She said a general exercise conducted within the region between June and July also saw an amount of 1,974 Ghana cedis recovered from illegal connections out of an estimated 2 million plus cedis.
We were able to recover 601,796 kWh, and the amount involved is 870,043 cedis, 40 pesos. This amount comes from 740 accounts or houses visited during the night, and they were all commercial activities. For the entire region, between January and July, which included the night monitoring, that is both day monitoring and night monitoring. We have recovered 1.7 gigawatt units, and the amount involved is 2,297,796 cedis to 58.
Meanwhile, the Tema Regional General Manager of the company, Engineer Joseph Mensah Forsen, also noted that Tema scored 61% and placed fifth in a customer satisfaction index survey conducted by ECJ.
Tema didn't do badly. Tema also had about 61%. Yeah, we were within the average, so we also had about 61%. The highest was about 71%, which is the water region, and then Tema was between 4th and 5th. All that I want to tell them that they should help ECG to serve them better. We would continue to make sure that we improve on our services. We will give them the bills. They should just look at the bills and then pay it on time so that we get the needed revenue to build a robust infrastructure to serve them.
For Citi Newsroom, Elvis Washington reporting from Tema.
You're still watching the Citi Newsroom. Right after this break, we'll hear from retailers of stationery and school products under siege from cheap imports from China. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Spend 30 minutes every weekday catching up with all the trending social media conversations of the day. If you tweet it, we'll read it. We might just even Skype you. Just, no matter your situation, you can rise to the top.
Absolutely.
You really
and
can.
It's interesting that he wrote this article on the 17th of June, and on the 18th of June, yesterday, he actually scored 2 goals in the Belgium World Cup meet.
30 minutes is all it takes, so use the hashtag 30minutes on social media to catch our attention. Join the most interactive social media TV show weekdays at 5 p.m. only on Citi TV.
Quero ver todo mundo balançando. Ninguém pode ficar parado. Essa loucura. Mexe.
Witness the twisted and tangled story of betrayal, greed, vengeance, and love in the award-winning Brazil Avenue. Carmenia, a woman led by greed, gets rid of her husband, who is Rita's father, and sends Rita away to a filthy landfill. Rita finds love in Batata, but they are soon separated by adoption into different families, far away from each other. Many years later, all paths cross again, as Rita, now a renowned chef, seeks to pay back her stepmother for taking away her happiness as a child. It's a story of twists, turns, suspense, and thrilling action in Brazil Avenue. Brazil Avenue, coming soon only on Citi TV. Brazil Avenue.
You're in tune to the Breakfast Daily on Citi TV. Stoneboy says so. Keep it locked. Don't log off.
We spice up your mornings with culturally enriched conversations, social interviews, and policy-oriented discussions that will keep you updated on the progress of the nation.
And that is the reason I was making the point to him that I refrained from responding to this Joyce Bauer statement. Because if some citizens have accused President Mahama of diverting a certain amount of money, deal with that, deny same, and move on with your life.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Let your voice be heard with the hashtag Breakfast Daily. Join us for breakfast daily, only on Citi TV.
Hello again. The Professor Joshua Alabi campaign team in the NDC flag bearer race has called on the party leadership to give effect to provisions of the party constitution that allow grassroots participation in the election of a new flag bearer. Speaking at a press conference this morning, Professor Joshua Alabi's campaign coordinator, Victor Adawudu, urged the party to respect the constitution.
Team Alabi believes that to strengthen all structures of the party and to build a very strong party for election 2020, the grassroots, represented by the branch executive, should be deeply involved in selecting the flag bearer for the party. The grassroots, as we say, they are the king makers of the party. The euphoria that characterized the involvement in deciding who becomes the flag bearer seems overwhelming in all the constituency we have visited so far. We take the opportunity to thank Congress and the Constitutional Review Committee, of which I'm privileged to have been part of, for crafting Article 42, 1G, which allows branch executives, both elected and co-opted, to exercise their franchise in the election of the presidential candidate for the party. Indeed, the branch executives are the kingmakers and must be recognized as such. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, let me take the opportunity to bring you up to speed on the NDC Constitution in relation to the presidential primary. Article 42(1)(g) of the Constitution captures the composition of the Electoral College for the election of the...
Let's stay with politics. The majority leader of Parliament, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, has bemoaned what he describes as political parties' monetization of the organizations. This will not be the first time he's making such a call, as issues of some political party aspirants offering financial inducements to voters have now become an open secret. According to Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, the level of corruption cannot be eliminated if the trend persists. He was speaking at the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals Indicator Baseline Report in Accra.
Parliament requires to build the capacity of the institution of Parliament and also members of Parliament to ensure that Parliament is able to effectively and efficiently discharge its constitutional and statutory mandates. This cannot be done with the current state of affairs, where the high attrition in Parliament is spoken of in harsh tones. It cannot happen when the political parties in Ghana are providing ample space for the increasing monetization in their own internal organizations. Chairman, the good book says, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. The Ghanaian people cannot be deceived. Political parties must confront the increasing trend of monetization in their internal organizations. Otherwise, we lose the battle against corruption.
Let's get to some other stories. And residents of Lower Pram are bypassing the community's only public toilets each day to defecate at the beach. According to the international NGO WaterAid, about 85.7% of Ghana's population are without decent toilets in their homes. And the story is no different in this. But with a functional public toilet ready to serve the community's needs, why do people continue to patronize the beach over the facility? My colleague Niamama finds out in the following report.
In broad daylight, these residents have decided to respond to nature's call along the beach.
Nonchalant about the environmental hazard of the act, it has become the norm here. What is peculiar about the practice is the presence of a public toilet only 50 meters away. A resident, Godfred, who has just returned from one of his numerous sessions at the beach, tells me why he didn't use the public toilet instead.
I say, we're not missing, and something I say, still, depending
Another resident, Richard, blames his preference for the beach on the fee charged by operators of the facility.
Over 50 pesos. 50 pesos then I will bash a call our 60. Ogo ni meku nyeska. What is quite a little bit no by the chewa. No any walk kwadi no obu management team sagamini or you're sure about fee free.
Auntie Mary has been operating the public toilet for the past 6 years. But for Stephen Lati, a resident here, he would rather pay the 30 pesos fee to use this public toilet.
Yeah, I prefer to come here past the seaside. Okay, the reason why people don't want to use is because, like, we are many of this town. Yeah, so this toilet, we need like 2 or 4 before it can serve us for this town. Sometimes people do not have money. Yeah, so when they come, they say they won't go inside free. Then the woman too said no. Unless they bring money first. Some of them to have 20 pesos. They take about 30 pesos. So some of them to take, they have 10 pesos. They say they want paper. So because of that, people don't want to go inside. They want to the sea.
Reporting for Citi News from Lower Pom, my name is Ni Ama.
A coalition of licensed agencies, returning migrant workers and some unemployed youth groups has called on government to expedite action and ensure that a ban on labor migrations is lifted. Labor migration to Gulf states like Oman, Kuwait, Qatar and UAE have been suspended following a raft of complaints over maltreatment and slavery.
Addressing a press conference today, the spokesperson of the licensed agencies, Abubakar Dan Liman, said the group would embark on a peaceful march with the unemployed youth to register their displeasure soon.
The country is struggling with very high unemployment rates. Just a few days ago, we saw a big demonstration by the unemployment graduates. The licensed recruitment agencies used to be a major provider of jobs abroad for this category of Ghanaians, providing them jobs in the same areas of security guard, driving, civil engineering works, civil aviation, teaching, nursing, as well as the hospitality industry, and many others. The licensed recruitment agencies are not only engaged in supply of household workers. No. Both the government and the general public should be aware of this fact. The promises of the suspension going to be lifted soon have tarried for over 16 months. And all we are asking for is lifting the suspension on legal recruitment now.
Frema, a few minutes ago, you saw the story from Pram.
Yes. And Nathan, you see, I have issues, with these things. I mean, these are things that has nothing to do with government. I mean, let's get that straight. These are purely attitudinal issues. It's so unfortunate that in this day and age, people still prefer to engage in such acts.
And there's a functioning public toilet. It's not as though there's none. There is one. So why are they going to the beaches? Why are they still practicing open defecation? Like you're saying, it's attitudinal. People need to understand that the more they do these things, the more they endanger themselves, their health risks, and just a cycle that they need to understand.
I guess, the way citizens are always protesting, against government for things that the government is not doing. Perhaps maybe government workers should also start protesting against some of these things, because I just don't get it, Anyway, this is where we draw the curtain on tonight's edition of the Citi Newsroom. Visit citinewsroom.com for more news. My name is Frema Adunyame.
And I am Nathan Quao. Many thanks for your time and have a great evening.
Good evening.